sudden the pollens are all bursting with joy again.
Good to go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 27th meeting of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority. A first order of business, if everyone would please stand and face the flag, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sylvette, would you call the roll, please?
Paul Anthony, Ann Baum, Robert Brooks, Frank Fasciano,
I'm here.
Don Gottschall,
She's here.
Here.
Ricky Gower,
Here.
Justin Grimshaw,
Here.
John Hayes,
Here.
Ron Heckman, Larry Hepburger,
Here.
James Irwin,
Here.
Glenn Reedman,
Present.
Michael Sturshik, Jonathan Strauss,
Here.
Chris Worley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Sylvette, do we have any public comment?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, next order of business. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the June 25th minutes.
So moved.
Moved by John, second by Mike. Are there any additions, corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. We will go to you, Frank, for the treasurer's report.
All right, Todd's going to present June and July, and then we will accept them as together in one vote.
Good afternoon, everyone. Always start off with traffic, in case you missed it. Last 2 months, best 2 months we've had on record. June, before July, was our best month on record, and in July, we went over the 100,000 mark for the first time. So 2 of the best months we've had ever since our last meeting. So I say no more meetings. What do you think?
Do we get to 1 million this year?
Next
maybe,
slide.
Maybe. Last time somebody said that, we had something happen, so be careful.
Don't tempt fate, John.
That's very true.
Comparing us to all airports, you can see that our throughput is doing quite well, and our seats a little bit below, well, actually a little bit higher than all airports. So, but we use the seats we get. You can kind of see that's what's going on here, which obviously was part of the reason our traffic is going so well. Comparing us to our peers, again, we're pretty much right there as far as our peers, as far as seats, but almost double as far as throughput. This month of June, so we're approving June and July. We had a good month of June, almost 300,000 of net income. I had a budget there, so that was a good month. And an even better month in July, over 450,000 of net income. Then this is our year to date so far. You can see we are, without CARES, a positive number of 2.4. That's ahead of our budget with CARES. So I think we're doing quite well. We're pretty much in line with where we were last year without CARES, actually a little bit ahead, 5% ahead. So moving quite along as far as year to date. And in case you're keeping track, 7 for 7 as far as months, positive net income without CARES. So every month, year to date, we've had positive net income without CARES. And this is just our projection, which we talked about. We talked about the fact that that number is going to come down, but still a positive number without CARES through the end of the year. And this is kind of our big variances, which we always talk about. Just kind of breaking down those numbers here. And a lot of these numbers, some of these things are going to hit later in the year where some of these are timing. But, you know, we budgeted a pretty robust number as far as staffing. And we're still up, but not as high as what we had in our budget. And interest rates, we really have done a good job of managing that. And our parking revenue, which we'll talk about later, is up versus our budget as well. This is just kind of breaking it down where we are. Like I mentioned, we're up 11% in personnel costs from last year, but still 9% below budget. And we're up 4% versus last year on non-personnel. You'll probably see that number go up later in the year because you're going to have some timing and some of those expenses are going to hit later in the year. And this is kind of breaking down our cash. We did update the peer average. The old average was 2022. We just got the recent data, was 208 days of cash in 2022. Now it is 262, and you can see our numbers there are above that. And our reserve number is 180, and it breaks out all the pieces of it down at the bottom there, which we extended a couple months ago. We extended that number up to 180.
Todd, how's the $73,806 a day? Still?
That's our budgeted number, but in essence, we will be coming in less than that because we're coming in less than budget. So if you go back to here, actually, where was I? Let's see here. Year to date, you can see that our expenses are down -12. So that would be reflective of that number.
So it's still a good number, okay.
Any questions?
So looking for a motion to accept June and
July.
June and July. Dawn, second. Are there any further discussion, any questions?
Should be short and sweet when we have a good month, right? 2 months.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Okay.
opposed? Okay.
Thank
We
you,
accept.
Frank. Next on the agenda, John, with the Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. You still up?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here, okay. We talked about our interest rate adjustment here, and there's one thing on our connector loan we need approval for. So our current loan right now is a fixed rate that would not reset until 10/1 of 2031. None of the other conditions will change, but we're going to go to a variable note. That's what we're working on now, to go back to a variable rate, which would in essence take us to approximately 5.4, but that would be the maximum variable rate that we could be at. So in essence, we could have 5.96 fixed, or we could have the maximum variable rate of 5.4. We're weighing it, because obviously that number can still go down if prime drops below 6.5. So just looking for a vote to go down to 5.4% versus 5.96%.
What other options did they give us?
As far as, when you're talking about the original ones,
Yeah. Oh, no, in terms of the proposed rate change.
the proposed rate change was ones that I went back to them with. So that was one in the original document that we had a cap on prime. So that's what it's down there. So even though prime's over 6.5, we had a cap on prime. So if we stay with the variable, that's our best option. And if prime goes below 6.5, obviously, that rate can come down. It can never be higher than 5.3.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Every time prime resets, our rate resets.
Our rate could reset, but right now, prime's over
I
6.
understand that, but
But
every
if
time.
prime was to go down to 6, then we would get 83% of 6. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hey, Ed. Any questions?
Related question, there was a question that we talked about during the Finance Committee meeting in regard to interest rates and documents and our bank. Has that been resolved?
No, we're still having discussions. We will keep you posted on that. We have a good relationship with our banks, and this is just an opportunity. Whenever there's kind of a challenge, that's when you really find out what your relationships are made of.
Remember, it's their challenge, not ours.
Okay.
Feel free to tell Doug that.
I will remind them that you said that.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I'm asking for a vote to go to the lower variable, the maximum variable rate of approximately 5.4%.
So moved.
Second.
Any, I guess we're good? That's quick.
John?
You want me to call for the vote?
Yeah, call for it.
Okay, go ahead. All those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay. Dawn, Business Committee.
Sure. We will go to Ryan to do the approval of the 2024 capital improvement plan budget.
Just try to refresh the page.
Oh.
So we're looking for approval to the 2024 Capital Improvement Program update that we discussed last week in Business Committee. Really throughout the year, we obviously look at project fluctuations in terms of timing, sometimes costs in terms of ones we maybe haven't started yet from what we originally programmed the budget. But really what we're looking for is just some variations in some of the projects on the Exhibits A and Exhibit B that were included in Novus, and again, we went through those in the committee. But really, it puts us about $1.5 million to $2 million below budget. So we're really just looking at reallocating the resources for between now and the end of the year. And the one thing we talked a little bit about that will kind of come to light as we really look at our budget for next year is when we do projects and looking at the cash flow with all the numbers that Todd just presented, it's really from start to finish of the project. And we always are a bit conservative in terms of everything goes according to plan. You know, we get the approvals when we need. So sometimes, again, the projects shift in terms of timing, which is what impacts the cash flow and the really approved amount. So we're really just looking for approving the reallocation that was included in the Exhibits A and Exhibit B. No additional cost amendments that we're looking for at this time.
So can I get a motion to approve the 2024 Capital Improvement Program budget update?
Motion.
Frank?
Second.
Who? Oh, okay, Mike. And all approve, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Ryan stays to do the approval of the amendment to passenger boarding bridge contract.
Great, all right, thank you. And I should have also mentioned in those, the approval, everything beyond that you see here is obviously in those numbers and in the latest cash flow as well as we move things forward. So we're looking for here is approval of contract amendment for the passenger boarding bridge foundation project. Again, we talked a little bit about this in the committees, but there was a conflict between the existing water line and the foundation for the new Jet Bridge 2, formerly Gate 3. Looking at all the different options, we had to relocate the existing water line. It's the most cost efficient and time savings versus re-engineering and moving the foundation for the bridge itself. Basically with the change order or the contract amendment, as well as a deduct that we got from the change in the PLC manufacturer controller that we were putting on the bridges, really the net change is an additional $6,900. Again, all the work as part of this is funded through that DCD grant, so no LNAA share is part of it. Again, we're looking to approve the contract amendment to BRH Construction Incorporated in the amount of $19,217.95 for the passenger boarding bridge foundations project.
Can I get a motion? Thank you. Second. Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Ryan, you're still up.
Okay,
Approval of the former government building demolition contract.
great. All right, thank you, Don. So again, we talked about this during our committees as well. Again, most are aware of what the government building is, but again, it was the previous LNAA administrative offices, had some other functions, constructed in 1949. Really, since about the late 1990s, it's really primarily been abandoned. Condition inside really is not salvageable. Really, as part of this project, the call it the southern or the west portion of the building, the annex that was constructed later, houses some of our electrical equipment and some storage. So that portion of the building will remain prior to the and after the demolition. But really, with this project, we negotiated a proposal with the Gordian Group, which is part of the Keystone Cooperative Purchasing Network. We've used them before for some of the other building demolitions that we've done. And again, they're in that program where we're able to actually negotiate proposals and make sure that we get everything that we need throughout. So there were actually about 6 different revisions of the proposal to get to the price where we are now. Really looking at it was about 1.468962. Some of the other previous work in terms of the environmental remediation has already been completed. Again, the reason for the price of where it is and the components is it includes building demolition, site restoration, pre-electrical demo work, post-electrical demo work, and some structural components because that basement's remaining that they have to add since the rest of the building is going to be demolished. So a lot of components in there. kind of as a reminder, there is some CARES, or really the ARPA funds that are going to be applied to this as well. We budgeted about $750,000, but again, as we presented, it's included in all of our cash flows and projections. And again, as I mentioned, really working with the design team, contractors, to really get the numbers where we wanted them, saved us about $250,000. So again, just looking to approve the proposals entered into the contracts as shown below. The general contractor that we used before is Lobar Associates, when again also teaming with local folks. And then the electrical contractor is S.J. Thomas, again uses a local contractor that we used a lot for electrical work as well.
I've got 2 questions. After grant receipts, what's the net cost to us?
So after the grant receipt, it would just be the difference between the 1.4 and the 750.
Okay,
I'm not good at doing
so
that.
about 650.
Thank you.
Got it. And then second question about environmental remediation, I assume you mean asbestos.
Yeah,
Or anything else that we needed to deal with, or?
no, it was really just asbestos, some of the older thermostats with mercury in them. There's a little bit they'll have to do remediation with the demo because of some of the insulation around the windows and some of the piping, but most of the bulk of the work was already done.
Then last question, and this may be a ridiculous one, but are we thinking about selling bricks? And I kid about that, but I'm not sure how much they made out of the old Bethlehem Steel Tower selling bricks.
Yeah.
I've got one sitting on my credenza.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we can look and see if it's feasible with discussions with the
yeah,
contractors.
a lot of people around here that went through that building, they,
Or at least save
And
it
whether
for
it's-
all of us.
Yeah.
yeah. And if there's enough to make it worth it, it may not even be worth the effort. Every bit helps.
Are we talking about operating budgets with bricks now?
No, no.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really, to Todd's point, the funding with the demo and part of the construction piece is really a split between operating and capital. Because demo is really an operating expense. The other pieces like the structural and the electrical is really a capital.
Any other questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the former government building demolition contracts?
So moved.
Mike? And Larry second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And one more time, Ryan, the award of bids for the air handler unit number 4 replacement.
Great, thank you. So again, with this discussion, we're looking for the award of bids for the air handler unit number 4, which is in the main terminal. Existing air handler unit was originally installed when this portion of the building was constructed around 1974. Really, this project, or the air handler unit 4, serves the Allegiant ticket counter, check-in area, and then the police offices on the first level. Really, the work itself includes replacing the air handler unit itself, all the duct work because of the way the system is, new lighting, ceiling grids, since we're in there, it hasn't been touched before, as well as we'll get into some additional items for the police station. But really, last week, or the week before, August 15th, we received 7 bids for the project, 3 general contractors, 2 mechanical, 2 electrical. I think, really see the breakdown, we're really after reviewing everything. The 3 recommended, the general is Mohawk Construction for $311,000. Mechanical contractors, Master Mechanical for $370,000. Electrical is Wind Gap for $115,000. Again, as most of you know, Master Mechanical and Wind Gap, we've worked with them before through the connector project. Mohawk Construction is actually here on site doing the concessions upgrades right now, and working through with them. Again, each of these include the 10% contingency, which is included in the numbers that you see there. And then in terms of the approval, as I mentioned, including some additional components, we actually purchased or ordered the air handler unit earlier so that it would be on site within the next month or 2 when they're looking to start the construction. And then in the numbers, we're looking to include the building automation tie-in with the HVAC components, and then really some new furniture, really upgrading the furniture and the flooring for the police station. Since we're in there, getting them out of the space, it made sense to do that now. And some of their squad room cubicles really are in rough shape, and we don't even know if we'll get back together if we weren't going to replace it as well. The one thing here, compared to the previous discussion we just had about the government building discussion, We did look at work at using the KPN network for this as well with some of the conversations, but in terms of where the engineer's estimates were, it really didn't make sense. So actually by putting it out to bid, getting in line with the engineer's estimate by about 2%, it saved us about $162,000 if we had just gone with that KPN. So again, we always look at what makes the most sense for each specific project. So with that, the total project cost with the 3 bids and the ancillary equipment is about $1,013,938. So with that, we're looking to award the bids to the following contractors with the total project cost of that $1,013,938, and then again listed those 3 as I mentioned below for that for those costs.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, I need a motion to approve the air handler unit number 4 replacement. John?
Second.
And thank you. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you.
And then lastly, we will have Cedric and Todd talk about the approval of the public parking rate adjustments.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we just completed a pretty exhaustive parking rate analysis for the airport. So I put together a very brief presentation for you. First to start with introduction and goals, and then the current parking rates. We did a peer comparison as part of this, and finally what the recommendations are from the study. So the goals obviously were evaluate what the trends are, not just here at ABE, but also nationally, compare them to some of our peers, and then make recommendations on that. So adjustments to the parking that is here. When you look at the national parking trends, this is a sampling of several airports across the country that have raised their parking rates. And the range of time has been between about the last 5 to 15 years. So some of them haven't changed rates in up to 15 years. You can note BWI last rate increase was 2009. You see Jackson, Megger, Wiley Evers, 2016. That increase, frankly, at BWI hourly was about $8 an hour, but they hadn't done it for 15 years. Why are they doing this nationally? Essentially, they're doing it because there are dollars needed for reinvestment back into the airports because the traffic growth is such, as Todd alluded to, everyone's achieving pretty significant growth. So this is not anything unknown as far as the rate increases, but 15 years it's been for some of these airports. How long has it been here? 15 years. So we are on the back end of the national trend and graph. What are our rates? Short term, $22 per day, $2 per hour. The first 10 minutes are free. Long term, $14 per day, $2 per hour. The first 10 minutes are free. Up to $79 per week. That results right now in an average monthly revenue for 2023 was $520K. We've had an increase with the traffic in 2024. It's up to $562K, and that's through the month of July. So also looking at it nationally, we did a peer comparison. First looking at some of your airports local here in Pennsylvania, but also New York and New Jersey. So you have Wilkes-Barre, Westchester, Long Island, Atlantic City, and Harrisburg, surrounding airports to Lehigh Valley. How does that compare? A lot of numbers on this table. This is the short-term parking. I'd focus you on, so current ABE is green, so free for that first 10 minutes, and then at that first hour at $2. Then look at the other airports in their hours, $3, $5, up to $8 for those peer airports. Focusing down on the lower levels, daily max, we're at $22 a day. The average between those peers is about $23 per day. The weekly max, $154. These surrounding airports also, roughly about $161 average. So a little bit below average. We haven't changed in the last 15 years. Long term, and I'd highlight long term is also economy as well for some of these airports. But long term, you see that first hour, we're at $2. You look at the other rows, $3, $5, up to $8 for the first hour. Daily max, we're at $14 a day, and then you have up to $19 with an average of about $15 between the airports. Weekly rates at $79, you can see the weekly rates in that last row. Again, we're very, very competitive, and they haven't changed it for the last 15 years. So how does that lead us to our recommendations? In the short term, increase the free time from 10 to 15 minutes. That's 5 additional minutes of free parking. What that results in is an increase of $1 after 15 minutes, so $2 for up to 30 minutes. Increase $1 after 30 minutes, so from 31 minutes to 60, $3 per hour. And then the daily rate increases by $2, so from $22 a day to $24 a day. In the long-term overflow, again, some places, this is economy, do the same thing, increase to 15 minutes, but then also maintain the current rates up to 60 minutes for $2 per hour. Where's the increase on long-term? Max daily rate, $2 more versus the $14, get you to $16 per day. And then your max rate, weekly rate increases by $10. What does that result in? It results in roughly about $1.43 a day to get it up to $89 total for the week. As part of this exhaustive study we did, there were a significant amount of alternatives that actually recommended higher rates, but with the authority, it was a balance between gaining reinvestment dollars but not overburdening the user that's here at this airport with the significant growth we've experienced over the past year or so. These increases result roughly in about $45,000 a month in additional revenue. We think it's reasonable. We think when you compare it to the national trends and to some of these airports have gone $5, $6, $7, $8, and this hasn't been a change for us in 15 years. We think $1 is a reasonable way to reinvest revenue back into the airport infrastructure as other airports are doing. I told you I'd keep it short. So any questions?
How often should we be looking at this?
You know, in general, it's kind of a 3 to 5 year evaluation to just say, hey, what are the current trends nationally? What are our peers doing? And then compete from that standpoint.
The question, within the next 5 years, we're gonna have a garage built here. Is that a time to adjust rates when the new garage is built?
That's a time to evaluate, I think. Yes.
I'm assuming we're still significantly less, but how do we compare to Philly and Newark?
Pay $28 a day in long-term.
Okay, so significantly different.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then one thing that they do, which I think is interesting, especially at Newark, is you can do this prepay if you're signing up for longer times. Do we want to consider something like that where if somebody's going to park for a week, that we discount for a prepay?
Yeah, so that really gets into our availability of our parking equipment to be able to do that. And so I think one of the things that we're talking to our vendor about now is having those options where we could look at that, and certainly with looking at what technologies we want to incorporate as we go forward, that's something we've been talking about.
Because it seems to, I mean, it works for me, so.
Yeah.
I
Convenience.
think I'm getting a deal.
This dollar mark that we're shooting for, is that enough? After 15 years, is that enough?
Yeah, I think it's the right balance when we look at all of the things we're trying to accomplish without, with staying in the metrics for our region. I think it's the right number.
It's about $500,000 a year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, 540. One thing that I hear from people besides how great this is out here now is
Sure.
the number 2 thing is the parking, that it's reasonable here and
Sure.
cheaper here than everywhere else. So I wouldn't,
Yeah.
This seems good to me, but I don't know that you want to jack it up and then people will.
Yeah, it's a good.
Right.
It's a balance.
It is a balance, right?
I think you don't want to jack it up so much that you drive people to
Yes.
Lyft and Uber and
Yes.
other alternatives.
Yes.
Sure.
I think this is effective that way.
We do this, when would we make it effective?
That's my part.
That's Todd, that's Todd's part, right?
I'll shut up. There you
You can sit down.
Get out of the way. You're on the bench.
We're looking to make this effective on or after October 1st, 2024, to get this stuff set up. One of the things to keep in mind, which Cedric had mentioned, these are round lots. So it's important for us to make these numbers round lots, meaning we didn't do any change, because we still take dollars out at the booth and on the pay on foot. So this is the first round number. So when we go up $1, that's the most round number we can go to is $1. The smallest increment we can go to is that $1. We didn't go up like $1.10 or something. It's $1, and that's a round number. So it's easier than taking change at the booth. But looking to make this on or after 10-1, and it's really coordinating the setup with the vendor as far as the equipment.
How much are cash transactions?
Cash transactions are about 5%.
5%.
5% of our business. So, yeah, I think what's interesting is probably 5% more. It tends to be more for the smaller transactions. People want to pay cash, you know, especially when they come in, they just want to pay cash. They don't really want to use their credit card for a couple dollars, but yeah, it's about 5% of our overall is.
John has a question.
Somebody have a question? John, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question, and two things. So, in terms of like protecting our parkers from feeling like they're being priced out, have we also considered like a frequent parker program for people that are constantly traveling? Just something to think about as we roll out increases, so you could also incentivize people or make them feel like we're not pricing them out.
Go ahead. I'll let you answer the second question.
My last point that I wanted to make was, especially when we're looking to develop this parking structure over the next couple of years, it's a time to kind of evaluate the technology that we have. And when we talk about like rates and pricing things appropriately, can we start to think about the possibility of doing like dynamic pricing, where the pricing fluctuates based off of peak and off-peak hours or days? Especially when we look at, you know, building multi-million-dollar parking structure, that would be the time to evaluate if we have the technology to do that type of pricing. Because I know the industry as a whole is starting to do a lot of dynamic pricing.
Okay, so I'll answer both of those questions. I can answer both. The first one is we already have the Aero Club lot for frequent travelers, and they get, in essence, short-term parking, but they pay long-term rates. So it's a pretty convenient spots. They're pretty much guaranteed for our frequent travelers. That's still there at this point, and they're paying the long-term rate. So that's still going to be in play. We did not change the kind of the transition time for people. So if they pay on foot, they still have enough time to go to their car, but we did not change that as well. And as far as the dynamic pricing, that's been something we're looking at as well, and that's all tied into the equipment, which Tom mentioned earlier. So it's all, we're looking at all these things as well. So.
Okay, great.
Great questions, thank you. Any other questions? I don't want to be as long as Cedric, so.
What kind of investment? What kind of investment would like the new technology be if you wanted to bring it in, say at the time of the garage? Right, millions?
It could be. It could be, depending on what you want it done. I mean, because we even talked about Easy Pass, some of those things. I mean, some of that infrastructure, you know, you have to figure out the cost versus is it worth it. But certainly, dynamic pricing is one that we really had on our radar.
You park at Newark, you can park with your Easy Pass.
Right, but it's still that setup.
It depends on how far you take it, because you can have the stall counts put in too with it to tell you, hey, there's 15 spaces here, there's 20 spaces here. I think many use that. So it depends on the extent of the technology you want to bring in.
And how we do that.
So we're going to be evaluating a lot of this.
Okay.
And certainly that would be evaluated in indoor facility, but you're going outdoors, it's a little harder to do that. So back to Ann's point, it's easier to do that in a controlled environment versus now we've kind of got a lot of open spaces, and it's like first come, first served. Unless, of course, you're in the Aero Club and you got those reserved spots for those frequent travelers. So at this point, we're looking to make these rate adjustments as proposed by Cedric, and recommended by Cedric, effective on or after October 1st of this year.
And what's the October 1st if what? What has to happen?
So we really need our vendor to be able to go into the equipment and change the programming for all of that. We also have signage that we need to change on the terminal area. We have our website to update. We want to get some communication out in advance of the change.
Ideally, we're going to shoot for a 10-1, but we're dealing with outside folks, and scheduling, if you haven't figured out with a lot of these outside vendors, is never guaranteed. So it's kind of like, hey, we want to do it around that date, but it might be 10-3 or 10-4, but that's the goal to do around 10-1. Any other questions?
Then I need a motion to approve the public parking rate adjustments.
I will give you that motion.
Frank? A second by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passes.
Thank you, Dawn. We'll move on to the director's report. Tom?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we'll skip over some of the great traffic numbers. I think Todd covered those pretty well. As we look into September, we're seeing for the schedule, our seats are up about 8%, 8.1%. Versus last September, and nationally in the domestic market, we're up about 2.5. So again, trending better with the seats than the national average. Always nice to see that. Since our last board meeting back all the way in June 25th, on July 12th, we celebrated the 5th anniversary of the Airport Book Exchange. So great partnership and support that we get from the public libraries of Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton. So we really thank them for their continued support there. On July 16th and 17th, we had our first ABE Junior Fire Camp. That was attended by 19 campers. We had 2 days for that. And I think we're already talking about the second annual ABE Fire Camp. So we're excited to host that again next year. On July 17th, we hosted Miller Keystone Blood Center here, and we collected 21 units for Miller Keystone. On July 25th, we had a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Draft House at ABE, and I think, Jim, you were here. I think it was a great event and seemed well received. August 5th, we hosted some Seeing Eye puppies from 4 Paws to Freedom for a tour of our terminal complex. We do that quite often, bring in the Seeing Eye dogs early and get them through the facility. Just on August 14th, we participated in the Military Share Pack program over at Second Harvest Food Bank. Thanks, Dawn, again, for turning us on to that. Staff loves doing it. 585 boxes, over 9,500 meals prepared for our military families and veterans. August 22nd, we celebrated National Aviation Week on that particular day by hosting the Civil Air Patrol, the Experimental Aircraft Association, and also the 99s, a women in aviation organization, out of the gate concourse. A lot of information, some tables, so great interaction with the passengers out there. In terms of upcoming events, tonight is our annual airport emergency plan and tabletop exercise. So we're doing that review over at the Lehigh Valley Hotel and Conference Center. Steve, any idea what we're signed up for attendance-wise?
Somewhere around 100, 108 attendees.
Okay.
40 different agencies.
Yeah, okay. That's why we have to do these off-site. So again, it sounds like we'll have some great attendance for that event tonight. Also tonight is Hanover Township Lehigh County is having their community night at Canal Park. So some of our staff will be down there. We'll be set up, also greeting people. We have some information about the airport down there as part of that. September 15th is the 10th anniversary of the Equilibrium polo match at Braden Air Park. So it's a big year for that. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years already, but if anyone is interested, we'll get an email out. Let Sylvette know if you're interested in tickets for that. We do have tickets if folks are interested in seeing the polo match or coming back if you haven't, if you've been there before. October 22nd is our next Fear of Flying seminar. And we only have 4 slots remaining. So the signups are going fast on that, as they typically do. You can sign up at flyabe.com. And again, that's October 22nd.
Should we do those more frequently since there's such demand?
We're working on it. There's a lot of coordination between the schedule of the pilot, the therapist, and some of the other teams that show up from TSA and other groups to put those on. So it's always a challenge. But yes, we've been actively talking about how we can increase the number of sessions.
Amazing. That's been year in and year out. That's been.
Yes. Yeah, we've increased it this year, but again, it seems like we can't do them enough, right?
Yep.
So we'll continue to work on that. And just a reminder, for September, our committee and board meetings, a little bit out of sequence, not the last Tuesday of the month for board. So we're moving our committee to September 26th, and we're having our board meeting for September on October 1st, which is a Tuesday. So regular times, we're just moving everything a little bit so we have enough time to generate financials and other documents that we need for the meetings. So other than that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the executive? Seeing none, we'll go to our solicitor report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've just been working on some lease renewals and lease matters, lease language. We just completed revamping the special events permit, which hadn't been looked at for a little while, so just kind of modernizing and simplifying some of the language there. It is pretty simple form. And then I would like to request an executive session regarding the legal strategy for threatened litigation on the connector project. So I don't know if we want to address new business first and then take the
We'll do
motion,
that.
however you'd like to do it.
Before we move on to new business, does anyone have any questions for Elizabeth on anything? Okay, is there any new business? If not, we'll take a motion to go into executive session. So moved. Second, Jim, all in favor? Aye.
Thanks.
Votes were taken.
Okay, there are no other comments. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So move.
We are adjourned.
What's up with your leg?
What?
What's up?